know it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
He's sick. Fox, you've seen one too many.
Who's laughing now? Who's laughing now?
Hello, this is the 404 Films podcast. I'm Sive.
I'm Carl. We are 404. We're a collective of Irish filmmakers working out of Dublin who would focus more on genre cinema, would be drawn to it a lot more.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do a podcast talking about certain types of art that we like, mostly movies, and we kind of want to do for the entire, being two big Halloween fans, we wanted to do a big month dedicated to all of our Halloween horror movies.
Frights. 404 Frights.
It's now 404 Film Fright. The 404 Frights is basically, we're two huge Halloween fans. Like, we would consider Halloween to be like Christmas for us, in the same vein. So we wanted to pick some movies that we particularly, like, very personal to us, that we feel are essential Halloween viewings. Now, the rules would be, they don't have to be set at Halloween. They just have to be very Halloween feeling, you know, Halloween-esque. We picked 5 movies each that we're going to break down and go through them. And
we'll have some trivia in them, some ins
naked
and outs.
women.
Yeah, just different things that we want to talk about and why we love them and why we've chosen them for our top 5 picks.
Yeah, and hopefully you'll get some good recommendations out of it. One of the rules, though, one of the statements that we have to make in case somebody listens to this and wonders why it's not there, John Carpenter's Halloween, we're going to do an entire episode about the entire series of that, because, you know, it was obviously going to be on both of our lists. It's probably on everyone's essential Halloween viewing list, and we love it so much that it needs its own episode. So
exactly.
If you hear it and it's not on our list, it's coming.
That's why. Another thing is to say that there are spoilers in this list. We are going to talk the ins and outs of things. So if you don't want spoilers and you hear the title of the film that you don't want to spoil it to, you know, just skip
ahead.
it. Yeah, just skip it. Although even if with the spoilers, I think these movies are
old. These movies are old.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen them by now, I mean,
go watch them and then listen to it. We'll put a list of the movies we watch.
You'll hear them come up as they go. But if you haven't seen them yet and they haven't been spoiled, then go watch them first. But they're so old, I'll be shocked if they haven't been spoiled for you already. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Hello?
Hello?
Who is this?
You tell me your name, I'll tell you mine.
I don't think so.
What's that noise?
Popcorn.
You making popcorn?
Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Oh, just some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
Everybody's a suspect!
You're not scared, are you? Squeak.
Scream was one that came to my head because I saw it as a really young kid. I remember I saw it in my neighbour's house, so the whole ghost face was really interesting to me, and then we had like a really good costume of it as well. Like, I still have the ghost face upstairs, and
it's probably like the most common Halloween costume.
Yeah.
Like, there's ones that you can get that like ooze blood and ooze
I remember those ones.
goo. They were never the same though, because they're not made of like rubber. The one in the movies made of rubber.
The old ones are really well made. The one I have upstairs is really well made.
It was a Halloween costume before it was in the movie. I think that's why they got it, is because they had to license it from like whatever.
But it was based
Halloween.
on the painting.
Yeah, and that was like the Halloween costume was based off the painting, but it was just a Halloween costume because in the movie they wanted it to be like anyone could wear this, and it was a very common Halloween costume, and then it became for the movie. And I think there was a whole thing with rights. If they wanted to release like a ghost face cream mask, they had to go through the rights of the Halloween costume company rather than, and they had to change it in a way or something like that, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but I remember like you could go into any like pawn shop, and if you had one, like, it's probably everyone's first Halloween costume is some variation of
it was one of the first ones that we had. I don't even know where my mom got it from, but I still have it upstairs, and I just found it like it was just creepy, and it was that, I don't know, it was just so well done in a sense of home intrusions.
Yeah,
you know,
the opening with Drew Barrymore is like New Psycho.
She was supposed to play
Sydney.
Sydney, yeah, but I thought it was perfect to have her in as like the start role. Like
it
made her even more of a star, I think, to have her in that first few minutes, and then she was killed off, and she was kind of, her death was this big, like she was nearly a star in the film. Yeah, because of her death.
It was like a big kind of twist that it was like kill off the lead star. It was like playing on Psycho again. You know how they had Janet Leigh in the first 40 minutes of Psycho, and then they kill off the main character. It's like Wes Craven doing his version of that with Drew Barrymore, who was
exactly, because it gives you a sense of security. You're like, clearly they're not going to kill off Drew Barrymore. And then they do, so you feel you're fucked. You don't feel safe then watching. You know, if she's going to die, everyone else is going to die.
I saw them out of order, the series of Scream, so I saw the second one first on a Halloween night in particular. I rented it, and I really liked it. I thought the opening was good. I thought Scream 2 was great, but Scream 1, when I watched it like I think a week after Halloween had ended, and I really liked Scream 2, and I wanted to check this out, and it was on TV, and I caught it, and I was kind of taken aback how brutal the opening was, with your man getting gutted in the porch. Her boyfriend is tied up outside. But
I actually saw Scary Movie 1 first before I saw Scream properly, because I remember when I was younger I watched Scream. Couldn't really remember it that much. It didn't really freak me out, but I remember like seeing clips of it. But then when I went to sit down and watch Scary Movie 1 for the first time, I was like, oh shit, like this is like a spoof of this other movie. So then I went back to watch Scream 1, and I thought it was great.
Here's my really nerdy fact about it, that the original title for Scream was Scary Movie.
It was, exactly,
10 times better name, in my opinion, for like Scream. Like Scream is a very kind of generic name, I think.
I prefer Scream.
Do you really? I prefer Scary Movie, because I think it just goes in line with the horror fanatics and the horror fans and the whole, everyone's aware of the pop culture, and it's like it's the whole movie's meta. So they actually call it Scream or Scary Movie. They're very aware that this, what are we going to watch? Scary Movie.
Exactly, because they watch Halloween in the middle of it. And there's a character that's explaining what the villain is going to do, what Michael Myers is going to do in Halloween. And then he's basically, is he kind of explaining what's happening to someone else in the house? Or that Scream is
he breaks down the rules for people. They're very simple rules, but there's literally a scene when he's like, Jamie, don't go in there, and Ghostface is standing behind him while he watches the movie by himself. You know? But that movie, I think, is definitely the you kind of, it's one, like I've said about other movies that I'm going to talk about on the list, is just you understand why it's that famous. It's like it set the kind of the benchmark for people being self-aware in horror movies. I mean, I don't know if it's a good thing necessarily, because a bunch of bad movies came out of it, like I Know What You Did Last Summer and Urban Legends, which isn't too bad if you've seen that with Jared Leto. But there's when characters got to the point where it's like, I know I'm in a horror movie and I'm gonna, like, they say really goofy things. Sometimes it can be great and sometimes it can be really bad, but it definitely set up, like,
I think Scream did it well.
I think like Cabin in the Woods, that's a much later one. They did it quite well, that they're very kind of self-aware in it, and I like the idea of, like, Buffy, I think, wouldn't like exist without Scream, because it kind of set the kind of bar of, like, they know kind of how fantastical all of this is, that there wouldn't be like Buffy, because they're like, everyone's kind of aware that they're in a horror movie and horror movies exist in that world. And I think that was like a fine line, that people could be in a movie and be like, oh, this is like the part in a horror movie when this happens. But it did get a bit much, like when characters are that kind of meta and self-aware, it does kind of get tedious. It does kind of create kind of a airhead kind of characters at some point. But like Sydney's not like that. Neve Campbell in she's really clever, and she's probably one of the best final girls.
No, it's just, what's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
But a lot of the people that would be based off her in the future were kind of, I felt like, airheads of like, this is what's going to happen in a horror movie. This guy is going to jump out at me, and it created some very annoying characters to come.
It did, yeah. Like, I found that probably Scream did that right, and they kept the right characters with their heads screwed on. But like, I'm trying to think, what did you think of Rose McGowan's character in that, where she's the one who gets caught in the door?
I really like that scene. I can't really fault the first movie at all. Like, even I love the second one probably just as much, but it's not as good. But the first one I can't fault. Like, that whole sequence I really enjoy with Rose McGowan, because it is that she's like, quite clever. Where I mean, I know it's like, it's the only problem with that whole thing. The only kind of, like, because in that sequence where Rose McGowan dies, she's really clever. She's beating the shit out of him. And I remember them even saying, like, we can't really have the villain of our movie get beaten up this much, can we? And they were like, no, it's great, but it's really slapstick because she's kicking the shit out of him. And it's the fact that she can't fit through the... I remember seeing
The dog door,
I remember seeing a parody in a very fucked up way, a Scary Movie type movie. It wasn't like Scary Movie directly, but it was another spoof one.
Yeah.
That the reason why she couldn't fit was because she had like a boob job or something like that.
I saw that as well. Where was that?
I can't remember. I think the movie's called Shout or Shriek.
Oh,
it's really bad.
Right, yeah,
It's
because I
really
remember
bad.
I saw that. I might have seen the film years ago where I saw a clip of that. But Rose McGowan in real life, she was so petite that she was actually able to fit through
really?
it. They had to staple her to the thing or something weird like that. I can't remember what I read. But yeah, they had to like tie her to the thing so when she went up in it that she'd stay and she wouldn't fall back out again.
I love that kill. I think it's so cool. I think that whole sequence is like, even her character is very like tongue in cheek, and even when she does die, it's kind of like a here we go kind of eye roll kind of moment. But the only thing I find very like unbelievable about that is the characters are very I don't want to say immoral, but they're like, there's a curfew. One of their friends in school was just killed, and they're all like, let's have a curfew party. And, you know, I'm going to dress up as the killer and all this kind of shit. It's a bit like, that's fucked up.
Yeah,
you know, that's the only kind of thing, you know, that is unbelievable about the movie. But like Matthew Illard and stuff in it, so good. He's Shaggy and Scooby-Doo, but he's Oh, Stu. What's his name? Stu. Yeah, he's got the best lines in it. You know?
He does, yeah. But I think a lot of that was improvised.
If I wouldn't be so, I love him.
He's very quick and he's very witty. Like I really like
his lines. Are like
his character.
Like his delivery is so good. Like his whole, I'm getting a bit woozy here, man.
Yeah.
After getting stabbed and everything.
Was it him and Neve Campbell had a thing going on after during the making?
Yeah, I think they were going out at the time. You know.
Yeah, I think so.
But his lines are great.
Yeah, we put her out of her misery. Because let's face it, Sydney, your mother was no Sharon Stone.
What made you kind of pick this movie to be Halloweeny though?
I guess it kind of just always brings me back to Halloween. The fact that I have had that costume for as long as I can remember. It was my sister's, I think, and she used to wear that on Halloween. And then when I was younger, me and my friend would dress up into it, and we'd do pranks in the house and stuff like that to my mom and stuff. Just be weird like with it, you know. It just always brought me back and gave me those Halloween kind of vibes, because it's always, every time we take out the Halloween decorations, it's always with those Halloween decorations, and it's just, you know, it just always brings me back.
I get it. Like I didn't pick for one of mine, but it would have been one of the close ones, I think. It didn't occur to me because I think it's just kind of built into my brain, because it's like you go to any Halloween costume shop, it's gonna be there.
It is.
It's like one of probably the most common costumes, as we said. But also
100%.
like I did watch the second one. I rented the second one on DVD back when you could like rent movies on DVD. Man, I sound like such a hipster right now. Back when you could rent movies on DVD, man. I don't know. It's like Christmas. We always said that like Halloween is like Christmas for us. So I always kind of get that slump of like sadness when Halloween is over.
Same.
You know. So like when I had to bring Scream back to the DVD rental place, and then I was like, oh, Halloween's over. It was coming up on TV. Scream 1 was coming up on TV, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this. And it kind of was like, oh, this is great because it's the first time of me properly watching it. And I remember there was this great moment where it's the opening with Drew Barrymore, and it's really tense, and she tells your man like to fuck off on the phone. She puts it down, and the phone rings, but like our landline phone rang at the same time, and I was like, oh shit.
No way.
Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah.
Did you know that she actually rang 911 multiple times
really?
during the making, because the props master forgot to unplug the phone? Right. So 911 kept ringing, being like, what's going on? Like, are you okay? And they were like, what the fuck?
That whole opening is really interesting. Like, I heard the way he got, because she gives such a good kind of performance of like being terrified that he tortured her by telling her the story about like somebody lighting a dog on fire.
It was her dog.
Was it?
Yeah, it was her dog that they lit on. Some boy in her neighborhood that she was saying lit her dog on fire when she was younger. I'm pretty sure it was her dog, and obviously it's a horrible traumatic thing to ever happen. If anyone touched my dog, there would be war. Like,
fucked up. Yeah.
So that was something she explained to Wes Craven during the making of it, that was something really traumatic to her, and he used that against her.
Yeah, I don't know if I
don't know how I feel about that. In fairness, I think that's very traumatic.
I didn't know it was her own dog.
I'm pretty sure it was her own dog. Yeah.
I mean, I would consider. Remember how everyone talks about how great Stanley Kubrick is, but he basically tortured Shelley Duvall. You know, that kind of thing.
He wasn't nice to people on set.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But people would kind of give him a pass because he's like this great genius. But I would say I've heard lots of people talk about Wes Craven. They all said he was great, and I would consider Wes Craven a genius as well. Because look at the amount of amazing things he's done. So like in 1974, I think I might be wrong with my date. He's basically started a new kind of genre with Last House on the Left.
Yeah, yeah.
And then in the 80s, he made one of the most popular slasher movies, Nightmare on Elm Street. And then he created this whole boom of new slasher movies in the 90s. So like for every decade, he did a groundbreaking horror movie. So that, like, you know, if he did do that, kind of fucked up, but at the same time, he sounded like a nice guy. Everyone had very nice things to say about him, and he was a very, very talented.
Like I think it is fucked up, but obviously I wasn't in that situation. I don't know what their agreement was, and I'm pretty sure she obviously told him. So
they talked about it afterwards.
And it was something that like she obviously consented to for him to use it.
It worked.
But like he'd say literally on set when he'd want to get that reaction, he'd be like, he has the
lighter,
the boy has the lighter. And she'd start screaming, which is...
It's such a good... I think it's particularly... For somebody who's dabbled in acting, it's really hard to
get to that level.
And then to keep it going for like 10 minutes or how long the opening is.
They were probably filming for hours with that, like, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, fair enough.
Do you think you could pass the Ghostface horror movie test that he does in the opening? Do you remember all the questions?
I know he asks about what's your favourite horror movie, and then does he ask about Michael Myers?
She says... Yeah, like I think she picks Halloween as her favorite movie, but they're talking and he did Wes Craven puts in a dig to Nightmare on Elm Street, where he's like, I don't know, what's your favorite? Like, I don't know, my favorite movie's probably Nightmare on Elm Street. And it's like, oh yeah, is that the one with the guy with knives for fingers? And she's like, yeah, the first one's great, but the rest are shit. You know what I mean?
Oh so, yeah, that's so funny. Yeah.
But he asks, I'll ask you the question, and I'll see if you can get it right. Yeah. Who is the killer in Friday the 13th?
Oh, Jason Voorhees. Oh no, it's not. It's his mother.
Oh, your boyfriend's dead.
Yeah.
That's what kills your man in it. Yeah. I can't remember what his
it's
other
his mother, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew that was such a trick question.
Yeah, because that's the one that actually gets her boyfriend killed in it. That she answers like that as well. Like you just, it's Jason. It's definitely Jason. It's like, oh no shit, you know.
Fuck, yeah. That's actually that was a good one. You got me. Yeah, I find it interesting that the film was written in 3 days. Kevin Williamson is the writer of the film. It has an interesting kind of backstory for how it was written and stuff like that. I didn't know it was written in 3 days, but I heard it was based off the Williamsburg. Yeah, like Gainesville. The Gainesville murders. I remember watching like some bullshit fucking true crime TV, you know, like Killer Wives, that kind of show about it, and it was basically the guy was obsessed with like The Exorcist 3 or something like that, wasn't he? The film. What? Yeah, and he killed people because he's obsessed with that, but I don't know how true that is, because you know with the media they're like, there's an Exorcist 3. Sorry, go on, what were you saying? Well, that was the biggest shock from it. Yeah. You know, like just in the media they'll say like a guy killed like 20 people, and they'll be like, oh, did you know he's a horror movie fan, so that's why he did it. So I don't know how true it is, but I think it was based in and around that he was a big fan of that movie, and I guess he tried to explain his actions because he was a fan of that movie. Either he did, or I'm honestly, I don't really have an authority to talk about it because I don't know. I haven't done any research on it. No idea. People actually died, so it's a bit fucked up if I claim this, but to say that, just because I've started this point, to say that anyone is going to kill anyone over a movie or did it because of a movie is a joke. Yeah. I think that's what the inspiration they took was to be like, one of the people did kind of love horror movies and they went off. But they even say it in it. They say, don't you blame the movie, Sid, because they don't make people killers, they just make killers more creative or something. That's a line ripped straight from it, like, you know. I find it interesting that obviously he was just watching like the Gainesville murders on like, I don't know, some TV show. He just got really creeped out and he called up his friend who started asking him about what was his like favorite scary movie and all that stuff, and that's where the phone call. That's where the opening of the film began, was when his friend was like, so what is your favorite scary movie? And then he went to bed that night and woke, and like he was so freaked out, and he woke up at like 3 a.m. and he just started writing the opening for Scream. I think that whole phone kind of element is what kind of makes it so great, is because it is like there's so many
because it's a slasher movie basically, or it's like a whodunit kind of killer movie. But when you've got so many characters like Jason, who's a rip-off of Michael Myers. Sorry for any big Jason fans out there. Michael Myers is infinitely better because he came first. Yeah, and he's.
I'm not a big fan of Friday the 13th.
I was a big. I mean, I like them, but they're really not as good as Halloween. It's just a kind of copy. But that's another conversation for another day. But when every kind of character, bar like Freddy Krueger or Chucky, in that kind of genre, doesn't say a word. They're just like a voiceless kind of killer. It was great to have another one that's talking on the phone and making fun of the victim and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's a very different element.
They had some humor into it as
personality kind of thing.
Yeah, there was there was a colourful personality there for Ghostface, and it was different and I liked it.
I'll just say that this whole episode probably going to be dedicated to the Scream movies because the more I talk about them, the more I want to rewatch them and talk about them. And I didn't even get to once mention Courtney Cox, so that'll have to be it. And
the fact that
David Arquette and everything.
They got married then after that, which is, and they were together for a long time.
Then divorced and acted in the fourth, and then they're making they're making Scream 5. They had like Scream 1, 2, 3, and 4. They stopped getting good after 2.
Yeah.
They made 2 seasons of a TV show, another season of an unrelated TV show. Like MTV picked it up, and now they're making Scream 5, and Neve Campbell is coming back for it and everything. So we should,
that'd be good. Yeah, actually, another reason why I included this into my list was on Halloween. I think it might have been like 4 or 5 years ago. I went to the Lighthouse Cinema in Dublin, and I watched Scream 1 and 2 back to back.
Yeah,
it was just a thing to do on Halloween that it was like 3 years in a row that I'd go and I'd watch. Like 1 year was The Shining, and that year was Scream 1 and 2.
They're really good, I think, starter kind of horror movies for people who aren't really into horror movies that much. I feel like you're going to be entertained anyway because they're very funny.
Exactly, yeah, that's a good idea.
They can get kind of brutal and interesting and scary, like, you know, but
they're
definitely good starter ones, yeah.
Yeah, if you ever want to introduce people to scary movies. Because I have a lot of people saying to me recently, like, that, like, I've been talking to, obviously now that it's spooky season, I've been saying, talking about more horrors, and a lot of people have said to me that they hate horrors, and they just, and I understand it, but they just, I think someone said to me that they were like, my older siblings maybe watched them when I was younger and it just traumatized me. I was like, oh, that's actually fair enough.
I used to be, I mean, I was always into horror movies, but it was a weird kind of thing that, like, there was certain ones that I was like, oh no, that was too scary, I can't go back to it, it was like disturbing. Or I used to really hate dolls, like, so even seeing the Chucky Child's Play movies, the poster, I'd be like, no way, like, I'd have nightmares and stuff. And I remember my mom having to tell me, I was like, you know, they're special effects and they're not real. But then when I got a little older and I wanted to look up, my kind of weird trauma became more of a curiosity. I started looking up more about the Child's Play movies, and now they've turned out to be like one of my favorite series of films. Yeah, I just think people should go back, whatever scared them as a kid, and should look at it again. I think it's a very rewarding kind of experience to look back at stuff that creeped you out, you know, because it's like nostalgic, and even if it was a fucked up nostalgia of like terrifying fear, it's still really interesting, you know?
Yeah, I get you. The first time when I saw Chucky was the shop across the road from my primary school, so I was only like 10 at the time, I think. And my friend, who I was friends in primary school, she was really into horror films as well, I remember, and she heard like parents used to rent them out for her. And I remember seeing Chucky like on this like kind of little, it was like a real kind of run down shop, but it was like where we got our sweets and stuff after school. And the poster on the window was like Chucky, and I remember being so scared of it, but so intrigued. I was like, I need to see this. And I went home to my mom and I was like, Mom, please, can we rent it? And she was like, no.
No, it was definitely one that I think most people were afraid of the posters more than the actual films. Because if you watch the films, they're very kind of funny and enjoyable. You know, not like I never
watched it then properly after.
That's another series that I really got into them. I really, really like it because he has his whole to bring it back to Scream, you know, he came out the first one, he came out like he's a person. The first Child's Play movie came out like in the 80s, and then it was around like the late 80s and into the early 90s that the first 3 came out. Then there was a huge big hiatus, and then he came back after Scream brought horror movies back into popularity again, and he had his own kind of 90s kind of everyone is making quips and wisecracking. It's Bride of Chucky with Jennifer Tilly, and I actually think it's really, really good.
Okay,
so you should definitely check that one out. You know?
Yeah, I guess I kind of just had never went because I didn't really have access to it when I was like 10, and then when my mom was like, no, you're not renting it. It was really funny though. My mom was so like hot and cold at those things. I remember when we'd go to a sleepover when I was like that age. She rented out like, what was it, Final Destination, and they're the fucking scariest ones of it all because they're fucking realistic.
They're like gory.
Yeah, exactly.
But, they're not realistic. What, like a fucking penny falls from a vent?
Yeah, I know.
Into a fan and goes through somebody's head. But yeah, they're violent.
Like, I mean, they're violent. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and they're things that more creepier things have happened in terms of like coincidences.
Yeah,
so,
I feel like they'd be like, somebody should make a really realistic Final Destination that's just really tragic, where like somebody doesn't wear a hard helmet in a building site and gets a brick dropped on his head. It's like, yeah, he went to a coma, man. Yeah. He died 3 years later. Something really, really sad. You know? Speaking of Matthew Illard, I'm going to go into, I'm probably butchered that name as well. I'm going to go into one of my picks is Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island.
Join Scooby and his pals as they go from unmasking phony monsters to searching the country for real cases of the supernatural. Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. Because this time, the monsters are real.
I mean, it's weird that I'm picking kids' movies, but it's not the only kids' movie I've picked for this list. But I mean, you're not a Scooby-Doo fan.
I never watched it. I never had the chance to watch it as a kid.
Insane.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
It's weird how kids, because those set of movies came out when I was very young. Well, when I was born. Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island was a direct-to-DVD full-length movie. It was like the first full-length Scooby-Doo movie that came out in 1998 that set off a whole chain of movies. Like four of a series, and then a new TV show and everything. Other than that, it was like the old show, like Where Are You, Scooby-Doo, and the Scooby-Doo show. But
was Scooby-Doo always creepy? Like, was there always creepy stuff going on?
Well, that's it. Like, Scooby-Doo is a weird one where I kind of have to take a step back and be like, yeah, Scooby-Doo's a horror show. It's a weird kind of. It's always like the Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew. You know, it's always like a mystery where somebody wants land and they want to scare them off by doing a hoax of like a ghost, and it's always that the ghost is a fella, like is a person in a mask or a disguise. So it's a monsters every week, and they have to solve them, you know. But you kind of have to take a step back and be like, okay, what a fucking insane idea for a show. Like, how do you pitch that so crazy? Like, you know, like it's so surreal that okay, every new week there'll be a guy trying to get real estate by dressing up as a ghoul or an evil gorilla or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's always like a horror show. But it was when these ones came out, they kind of got more self-aware. Coming from, I think, the Scream movies and stuff, that they got a bit more self-aware. And they did this one where the whole basis of it is, do you know, like, would you know the characters in it?
In Scooby-Doo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, like, Daphne.
Yeah.
She's like her whole basis of her character in the movie is that she wants to find a real ghost because all the other ones have been phonies. Yeah, and there's a whole like montage in it. I just want to say as well, the music in it is really, really good.
No, there's zombies on the prowl, and it's terror time again.
I see. I never had the channel that played Scooby-Doo. Yeah. I only had cable, which only had Nickelodeon.
You'd catch a few on TG Carr in Irish.
Oh, right, yeah. See, no, I didn't watch TG Carr when I was a child. But
they'd show the odd cartoon in Irish, SpongeBob, Krabby Burger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what the Irish equivalent or the Irish translation of Krabby Patty was.
Krabby Burger.
Krabby Burger. Yeah, no, it wasn't worth watching in Irish now. Yeah, it was on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, it was Cartoon, exactly. It was Cartoon Network, and I didn't have that.
The reason I watched those because my grandparents who lived down the country had weird TV, so they didn't have Nickelodeon. They had Cartoon Network on their satellite or they're on their ordinary channels, you know. And my granddad used to record everything for us basically and send it back with us on a VHS tape.
Okay, that's so nice.
We would have all these movies recorded, and like reason why as well it's a Halloween one to me is because they'd show it on Cartoon Network as a Halloween kind of block of other ones. And like even in this kind of series of movies, there's about 4 of them. There's Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, Scooby-Doo and Witch's Ghost that had Tim Curry in it, and it's set Halloween and it's really kind of gothic. It's all about Salem witches and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders, and then Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost is the more Halloween one, but this one I had to go with because it's the best one and it's like my favourite one. It was shown in a Halloween block, and because I had it on VHS, I'd watch it at Halloween all the time. Track down the DVD, I can't remember where I got it, and I still watch it to this day around Halloween. But like, I think you'd ask a lot of people who are Scooby-Doo fans and they'd say it's the best one, and it goes kind of certain places with the horror that you wouldn't expect a kind of goofy cartoon to go. Like the whole thing is that she wants to prove that there's a real ghost.
Yeah.
And they go to I think it's like an old plantation or something like that in New Orleans, and there's a bunch of zombies in it, and they're drawn very kind of graphically and everything, and there's like twists in it where it turns out that there's always a twist that the person in Scooby-Doo helping them is obviously going to be the bad guy. You know what I mean? It's
Wait,
like, you know.
Is this animated or is it?
This is animated.
Oh, right,
like it definitely influenced the later one that was written by James Gunn, and Matthew Willard plays Shaggy in it.
Yeah.
Because that one is that everything's fake until there's actually real magic involved. But this is the case; they're actually real zombies. But it turns out that the people helping them on the plantation are actually like cat werewolf people.
Oh,
and
right.
They have a very like violent transformation. It's so good. Like there's this whole flashback. They have like this tragic backstory where their plantation was attacked by pirates.
Yeah.
And the pirates forced them to get eaten by a bunch of crocodiles, and it's really
sounds like a dream.
Yeah, no, it's really violent. Adrienne Barbeau plays the kind of quote unquote bad guy. You know. Your woman who runs the plantation, and that's John Carpenter's ex-wife, you know, the radio host in The Fog. So they did get like horror movie actors to be in it. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah.
It definitely influenced the live action ones, even the humor and everything. But it's definitely the standout of all the Scooby-Doos.
Yeah, and why did you pick it as one of your top 5 films? Like,
I think it's because it is like a nostalgia kind of thing, and it is shown around Halloween, but it does kind of give off that big kind of Halloween kind of mood, that kind of atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because you kind of get it built into your head that if you do watch it every year,
especially if you had it as a kid,
and as a kid, definitely.
It gives it kind of is like a light switch for that feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's such like, I think, big within the genre that like a lot of horror fans would like it as well. That the movie Trick or Treat, like a bit in that movie, one of the characters is watching it on TV. You know what I mean? So it is like associated with Halloween and everything.
Of course, yeah.
Not related to my point at all, but if you've ever watched Scooby-Doo, it's something about the way they animate the food and that is, you know, really good. Like I've never never have I ever watched something where I wanted to eat food more, even though it's not real, it's animated.
I get that, yeah, I know what you mean.
I'd have it taped and I'm rewatching it when I'm a little kid in my room in the middle of the night, and I'm watching it and I'm like, God, I'm so hungry. You know, I'm watching, and not only that, because it's recorded off the TV, in between in all the ad breaks, there's an ad for like McDonald's or something like that, and I'm watching it, I was like, this is the wrong thing to watch in the middle of the night, you know?
Yeah.
So like I'd be watching this every year around Halloween, and one of the other things I would watch is the first, it's actually a 2-parter in American Horror Story season 1. I think they've renamed it like Hell House or Murder House. But because they do, in that show, they do, like, they recast all the same actors, but it's different characters each season.
Yeah.
We were watching, me and my brother were watching this, and while we were watching it, we were like, and we were watching the American Horror Story thing around the same time, around Halloween, but while we were watching it, we were like, this was kind of a good setup for a genuinely good, like, horror movie, and we were like, who would we cast from the American Horror Story actors in this Scooby-Doo? Like, if they ever did, like, a take on it, I was like, okay, well, Jessica Lange would obviously play the Adrienne Barbeau character, because she had the short blonde hair, and she had the southern accent and everything, and we kind of broke it down. It was like, well, Evan Peters would have to play him, and Sarah Paulson would have to play that character, and everything like that. So I just thought it was funny.
Stephen King, the best-selling author of Carrie and The Shining, takes you on a startling journey to Salem's Lot.
Okay, for the next one I want to talk about is Salem's Lot, directed by Tobe Hooper. He did Texas Chainsaw, yeah, as well. He did a few different ones. I can't remember what other ones he did, though, at the moment.
Poltergeist was another. But I'm not sure, like, I'm not sure if it's disproven or not, but I knew there was kind of this rumor going around that because Steven Spielberg produced that movie, that he might have directed it secretly because of, like, some weird thing with the Directors Guild. I'm not really sure about it. I'm kind of...
Right.
taking bits of information I've heard in my past, but either way, that's one of his...
Interesting, though,
films.
yeah.
Doesn't feel like one of his movies, though. I feel like he makes... I mean, I really like him.
Toby Hooper with Salem's Lot.
Yeah, I mean, I like Salem's Lot, you know, a lot. That was
Yeah.
terrible. That was a terrible pun. Was that even considered a pun? And I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah.
But I feel like his whole kind of career was like either making a great movie like that or Salem's Lot, well, which was like a TV movie, or a Poltergeist. But then kind of he'd have these kind of hit and miss movies in between.
Oh, okay.
He did a really good space vampire movie on Netflix. I'm not sure if it's still there. It's called Life Force. It's fucking insane.
Really? Never heard of it.
Oh, it's got some really weird... It's like one of Patrick Stewart's first movies. It's something else. Like, yeah,
Okay.
definitely check that out if anyone hasn't seen that. But his whole kind of career was a bit hit and miss. But this was like, I don't know if this was made for TV or something. Was it? Because it's a two-parter.
Yeah,
So,
it's a TV miniseries, they
Yeah.
say. But a lot of the Stephen Kings do that, because this is obviously written, not the screenplay. The screenplay was written by Paul Monash, and obviously Stephen King wrote the novel. What's the other two-parter that Stephen... Oh, It, the Clown, obviously, yeah.
And then he went into this habit of... not habit, there was this kind of... I think they were all made by the same guy. They did two-part TV. So all of them are like two parts. So like you watch them one night.
Yeah.
And tune in tomorrow for the conclusion of it.
Exactly,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it was like that. But he started to remake some of his books that were already made into movies. He started remaking them for TV with his approval. So The Shining had a two-part TV adaptation, and it's really bad. I think there's another one as well. I think The Stand was one of them too. I think they're both made by Mick Garris. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm really sure The Shining one is.
Okay.
But that's basically, they weren't like over... Like, there's a good few Stephen Kings where it's basically you watch one on like Friday night or Saturday night, and then tune in tomorrow to watch the second half.
That's how it was,
know?
yeah. Yeah, because I remember when I was younger watching It, the Clown like that,
Mm-hmm.
when I was in my grandparents' house. And it would always be that extra kind of creepiness because you're down the country, you're not surrounded by a lot. So
You're like in the middle of darkness
scarier.
kind of a
yeah,
way. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I like that. I wanted to choose Salem's Lot because I actually had kind of forgotten about it for a while, but it's always that scene with the little boy at the window.
Yeah.
And he's like levitating in a circle, and it's so fucking
And he's like scratching on the glass.
Yeah, and the sounds that he makes when he's scratching on glass, just it's like
yeah, they're very
so
different looking.
Exactly,
Yeah.
they're so and the way they're shot, they're obviously shot on film. And it's just, I don't know, it just gives it another layer of creepiness.
Yeah.
Because of the way it's just...
It's kind of got like a worn look because I feel like
worn,
it is
yeah.
For like, I could be wrong, but I feel like because it's shot for TV, it doesn't look as pristine as a movie would. It kind of looks like it's a lower grade kind of... And it adds to it, yeah.
That's exactly it. It's a lower grade. It's not as, like you said, pristine as like movies that were made back then as well.
Like it captures that real creepy kind of spooky kind of gothic vibe of the kind of the vampire subject matter. Like the vampires themselves in it look really, really cool. Like the yellow kind of eyes they have, the look of the kid is basically all the vampires kind of have that same trait of the sharp nails, the really pale like off color skin, and the yellow kind of infected looking demon looking eyes, you know.
Yeah, but it's very simple at the same time. Like it's so, and that's why sometimes it really proves like the more simpler the better.
Yeah.
You know, I do agree with that in terms of like definitely old films like that. I just the way like I know obviously the main vampire is definitely
Nosferatu.
Yeah, it's definitely
I don't know his
that.
name in it, but I just know James Mason, who's like his helper, his like Renfield in it. He's the guy who's really funny, you know. James Mason's got the voice like that, you know, but he's the guy that like helps, but he just keeps calling him the Master. I don't know his real name, but he's like Blue Nosferatu. And I just know he doesn't speak in it. It's always James Mason doing his weird voice like that for all of his lines. So like you like your favorite scene is the bit in the window. My favorite scene is when the little kid who's like the main character, one of the main characters, who's into all the weird horror stuff, like all the models and stuff, is there with his family talking to the priest to help get over the grief of his friends, because they're the two kids that fly into the window because they both get killed. And they just kind of abruptly, James Mason and the Master basically just show up very abruptly. And it's weird calling him the Master over and over again, but they show up in the kitchen and he kills both of his parents really kind of quickly. And then the priest, has to stay back, and they do the whole your faith versus his faith.
Throw away your cross, face the Master, your faith against his faith. Could you do that? Is your faith enough?
It's been a while since I seen it. I think I was 15 or 16 when I watched it, but just the feeling that it left with me.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but even when we're saying about the graininess of like the film.
The visuals are
yeah. And just even the feel that it left me with is why I it's something I want to watch again and go back, but I just always like remember, I always watch that clip of the kid at the window because it freaks me out. I love showing other people it because they're like, Jesus, that's
a lot
so
of people
creepy.
still consider that like
I would still consider that more creepier than like, I'm very into like the classics, I guess. Not a lot of modern horror films really do it for me. That clip done that freaks me out, that really gets me. Like that would still could get me on a bad night. I could be lying in bed and think of that and have to turn my light on because I get so fucking freaked out.
It's parodied all the time. Not just that scene, like that scene is parodied in the Simpsons vampire one where it's like Bart's the vampire outside the window.
Yeah.
Come join us, Lisa. It's so cool. You get to stay up all night drinking blood.
And if you say you're a vampire, you get a free small soda at the movies.
I think I don't know if you'll remember it, but it was a show. Channel 4 did 100 Greatest Scary Moments that we talked about in the past, just about how much we liked it. It was basically shown around Halloween where people voted on like movies and TV shows and ads that they thought was really scary. But one of the things in it was Salem Slot and that scene. But one of the other scenes in it was they talked about the show overall it was like a sketch show called The League of Gentlemen.
Yeah.
And they're huge horror fans that write that, like Mark Gatiss and Reese Shearsmith and stuff, but they parodied that like so well, the vampires and their Christmas special, that they even look like the vampires from Salem's Lot. Like they have the pointed ears and the very kind of particular looking fangs and the weird eyes and everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that, but the one episode I do know is the Christmas one where he's like, you're my wife now.
That's it. Yeah, it's like they're anthologies. So that's like. Papa Lazarus. Yeah.
So I remember that.
That one was voted in this countdown of scary movie moments or scary moments. And I just remember always getting freaked out by the vampires in it, but that's them parodying Salem's Lot. So it obviously had a very kind of big impact. I think it was like, I don't know about the TV show, but the book probably was one of the first kind of forms of media to take the kind of Dracula kind of lore and put it in a very kind of American, like a setting, like a very modern kind of setting of like a town.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah. It took it out of like the old
big
spooky castle. Yeah. But like even. I think we said this before, I think you know this as well. Stephen King, when he wrote the book, he wanted to call it Jerusalem's Lot, but his wife was like, no, like don't call it that. Like it's too holy sounding.
Yeah, it would be a bit of a touchy subject, I feel, as well. Like people could misread that in a negative kind of way, But and it was initially named Salem's Lot to like kind of shorten the Jerusalem, but then the comma was taken out and they just called it Salem's Lot then. But I think it's better to call it Salem's Lot because it's, that gothic. Yeah, no, it's definitely got like a very kind of creepy feel. Is the reason why you picked it for like a Halloween movie is because it was associated with the countdown, the 100 scary moments, because that was shown around Halloween, when it was on. Exactly. For anyone who hasn't seen the 100 Great Scary Moments that was on Channel 4, it was made in like 2004. Something that's and probably it's crazy.
Freddy Krueger here, a.k.a. Robert Englund. Welcome to 100 Greatest Scary Moments.
And I saw it like back when it was not, because like when you watch it now you're like, whoa, that's so outdated. But what's the comedian's name though? Jimmy Carr. Yeah. He narrates it and he's really funny. But like when I watched it, I watched that when I was like 8 years old.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like I would have watched it when it first came out.
Yeah,
like,
because I remember us talking about that. We both watched it when it was actually on TV.
Yeah, because we used to watch it all the time when it came on.
They used to
4.
reshow it until it got too outdated to the point where they're like, we can't reshow it. But for a good few years, they used to show it over and over again.
I say they reshowed it up until about 2010.
Something like that, yeah. But I remember when I saw it as a little kid, I remember being like, oh, this is too scary to watch it in this room. And because every TV back then had the, what do you call them when they have a certain set of channels? You know, they have like RT, Channel 4, anything. So
the cable.
Basically the basic kind of cable thing. I'd be like, it's too scary to watch in this room. So I'd go upstairs and my dad is watching the same thing. And I'd be like, okay, maybe I'll watch a bit up here and I'll come downstairs and I'll watch a bit here. Oh, no, back upstairs and a bit down there. But
that's so funny. Yeah, I remember my mom wasn't really a big fan of me watching scary movies because she came from a Catholic home, you know. It was very kind of shunned upon to like look, and she thought it would like, you know, disease my mind. But when she realized that I was really into it, she'd be like, oh, you know, it'd be the odd time she'd be like, tell me that a horror film was on or something. She knew I really liked the 100 Greatest Scary Moments countdown, and she would always like read the newspaper and know when things are going to be on, like, you know, the TV guide in the newspaper. And she'd, coming up to Halloween, I remember she'd be like, oh, you know, the 100 Greatest Scary Moments is going to be on tonight. And I'd be like, yes, you know, because it was such a thing to set you in the mood in like October when it would come on. But it's something I would definitely recommend watching if you're into horror films, because
you find it online somewhere.
Yeah, like we found it online. Requesting for it.
Something like that. Yeah. Now, like there's another one out there as well. The Bravo 100 Greatest Scary Movie Moments. That's all the American ones. It's on YouTube. Yeah, we're gonna do a whole episode on just Channel 4's 100 Scary Moments, and we'll talk a bit about the Bravo one, but it was such a kind of important thing for us, like our careers and us being horror fans, that it needs a whole episode for us to talk about it, you know, on its own.
What would you do if you accidentally discovered the house next door was occupied by something not human? Fright Night. If you love being scared, this could be the night of your life.
Going from Salem's Lot, my second pick is Fright Night, which is basically a comedy version of Salem's Lot. Do you know the plot of it at all? You don't know anything about it?
No, not really, no.
Well, this is a 1980s one. The remake is like one of my favourite movies of all time, but I'll talk about that another time. But this is about a guy living next door to a vampire. The vampire's just moved in, and his room is basically right across from this guy's house, and he sees him bring people back and kill them.
Oh, I remember seeing the remake of it, because Colin Farrell is in the remake. Yeah, no, I do know it,
The original is the one that kind of feels like Halloween to me.
Yeah.
So it's like...
The clip I saw of it is that vibe, that kind of Salem's Lot type vibe.
Yeah, it's very gothic, you know? But it's got that real 80s kind of feel to it. And they've got like 80s fashion and 80s cars and everything, you know? The whole like thing is that he keeps bringing people back to his house, and the kid is witnessing it, and he quickly discovers that he's a vampire.
Yeah.
And it's Chris Sarandon in the role of Jerry Dandridge, a vampire who has a name like Jerry. As people think it's what people don't believe him, because he's like, what vampire is named Jerry?
Yeah.
In his like efforts to stop him, he pays a horror TV host who's like an old Hammer movie actor.
Yeah.
To help him kill this vampire. But your man is like a fraud. Well, he's not a fraud, he's just an actor. You know what I mean? He doesn't know, like, he's not going to kill like a real vampire. But he kind of just goes at him because he feels bad. And then he soon discovers that he's a vampire as well. And there's this whole kind of, like in a lot of other Dracula kind of stories. Not the character's Dracula, but in a lot of Dracula stories, there's a reincarnation of his wife. They play into that as well. But it's like, I remember I liked Salem's Lot, but I didn't like it as much because I saw Fright Night first.
Oh, okay, fair.
And there's almost like shot for shot, some of it's so similar, because it's like the two characters go in to the house to stop the vampire. Both the vampires have a helper kind of character. They're all basically like some supernatural thing. Like James Mason in Salem's Lot was a supernatural being in some way. But
yeah.
There's a great scene in this one. They stab his helper. They shoot him, he doesn't die, and then they stab him and he melts in it's like a very kind of 80s movie in regards to its special effects and its gore. Like it's got some really great special effects done by Steve Johnson, but like lots of melting and transformations and bats and stuff, and a really good soundtrack as well. It's got its own original soundtrack.
Fright Night, 'cause it's gonna be
Roddy McDowall plays Peter Vincent, the vampire hunter who he hires, but because of like the subject matter of he's like a big horror fan in it, and he watches a horror TV show with a horror host, and he hires the horror host to kill a vampire and everything, it does have that kind of Halloween feel because it is very like, it leans into the genre, and anything like what we were talking with Scream, I think that kind of leans into the genre. It feels kind of Halloween-y to me overall because it's very self-aware. So he's a horror fan that gets a horror actor to kill a real like horror kind of character.
Welcome to Fright Night. For real.
It was just another one that would be like, a lot of these is going to turn out to be the same of like, why do they feel Halloween-y? Because I used to watch them around Halloween. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think a big thing about finding vampire kind of movies very Halloween-y is also because we're Irish. We come from the writer is by Bram Stoker, who's actually from Dublin.
Yeah.
So I think obviously
we have the Bram Stoker experience, which is
exactly,
like
and
museum haunted house that I used to
go to it as a kid,
so good,
and that's why I guess why the vampire stuff always kind of like, I liked it a lot, and it creeped me out because it was so, you know, that style, that old gothic dark.
I find anything that's suburban with a gothic theme or like gothic imagery put into it always seems Halloween-y to me, because it's usually, I mean, I live in the suburbs, you know what I mean? I come from that kind of, I don't live in like a city or anything, but it's like any sort of suburban gothic blend I always find to be Halloween-y, because like obviously I come from like the suburbs, I don't live in the middle of a city or anything, but when you have that kind of gothic imagery put into the suburbs, that to me feels like Halloween, because everyone's house is done up in a kind of, I want to say, similar vein, in the sense of they want to make it look spooky and everything, and the whole feel of the horror being in a suburb reminds me of Halloween, because I think Halloween almost, I feel like lives and dies within the suburbs now. People like it's all about trick-or-treating. That's what it's basically become.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It is very Americanized.
It is, yeah. It is. I mean, I don't feel bad about that, like, at all. It's like it is what it is, and I like the whole suburb feel. I don't know if I like Halloween in a city or anything like that. You know, I like the idea of people going out and trick-or-treating. I don't think people do it that much anymore. I like people staying in and watching movies or having parties in suburbs and all that kind of stuff, and that's why I think I tie it. That's why I feel like Fright Night in particular would be like Halloween. I'm like a big fan of any horror movie set in the suburbs. I think they're all really good. Like It Follows was great, Halloween is great. You know, I like the idea of a threat coming into a suburbs, because you think it's so populated that you'll be safe, but it's not, and having to deal with it within the suburbs. Yeah.
Because it's not so far into the country that it's, you know, completely isolated, because in the suburbs you are surrounded by neighbours and everything like that. Did you get much trick-or-treaters when you were younger?
Well, I live basically the last house on the left. No, I actually live at the last house on the right of my neighborhood, and it's very spooky looking, which I love, but not many people like to come visiting it, you know, because it's very kind of... It is. There's a lot of
stuff to go through.
Yeah. But back in the day when we were younger, because I would know there's a family living there, and we would go out trick-or-treating,
and stuff,
and they would know, they kind of come back. But it's kind of perfect now in the sense of we don't get any kids, so we don't have to buy anything, you know, but we always do, because of
just in case, exactly. But we're the same. Like, I live on like a cul-de-sac with only like 14 houses, and there was never, we were the only generation really of kids on this road.
And once you grow up, there was
no one else after, and we never had any trick-or-treaters around, and it's pretty sad, because me and my mom will always like buy sweets and have them to go out just in case anyone calls around. Like, I mean, we did get the odd like handful, but that was it, and it was never like, you know, it was always, I always like got excited, like oh my god, trick-or-treaters, but then it never happened. They never called, and it was just like the big bucket of sweets were just waiting there, you know.
I would spend Halloween at other places. I'd go to my grandparents who live up the country, who also live up in the suburbs over there, but that would be a lot more. That was a new suburb that was built in the 2000s, so all the kids would be young there, so that was kind of very much almost like an American Halloween, of the amount of the way I said American Halloween as well, of like the amount of kids that were there, and you know, you'd get that very much that feeling, you know. Just because we talked about Salem's Lot, I think that these go hand in hand. That's why I was kind of saying that when I'd seen Salem's Lot after I'd seen Fright Night, it felt like it wasn't as good, but that's like deadly serious, that movie. But this is a goofy comedy. I'm not sure if you've seen The Lost Boys either, but it's like...
No, I tried to watch that and then I didn't get a chance. I know that that's supposed to be a really good film. I've heard it from a lot of people.
That would be like another one in my like top 50 movies. Like, but that's a different type of vampire movie. But this would be in the same vein of 80s, just really kind of fun vampire movies. They were very... I don't know.
He's looking at himself in the mirror.
I'm talking to myself, you know, because no one else listens. It's definitely worth checking out for that kind of like, if you like vampire movies, it's a more kind of goofy. I say goofy, but I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just like that 80s-ness, you know? The movie is so 80s when you see it. Like all the fashion in it is everything, you know? But if we're into what we were talking about with Salem's Law, definitely.
Somewhere between science and superstition, there is another world. The world of darkness.
Look, your daughter doesn't say she's a demon. She says she's the devil himself.
I'm telling you that thing upstairs isn't my daughter.
The one hope. The only hope. The Exorcist.
This is my third pick, is The Exorcist. This is another film that I saw clips of when I was very young, and it creeped me out to the point where like I would be terrified of anything in the dark. I would see
Regan.
I would see her in, like, I remember staying in my grandparents' house and going to bed and seeing my mom like sitting in bed, and just like my imagination was completely overreactive. And I remember my sister was watching with me as well, and she started freaking out as well because we could both like see Regan in my mom. It was so creepy.
In your mom?
Yeah, we're just like, you know, we were just like, our imaginations were just, I was like, I don't know, 8 at the time.
Yeah.
I was really young. And so I always swore off watching The Exorcist because it was so creepy.
Yeah, it was in the list as well.
Yeah, it was in that horror,
so
that haunted scary moment.
It was haunted scary moment.
Yes, it was in that list, and that's what me and my sister had watched. And when we went to bed that night, I remember just being really creeped out and just like not even like wanting to go to bed because I was thinking about The Exorcist.
It's like one of the most famous horror movies that you'd know parts of it, and you'd know at least the vomiting, and you'd know the head going 360, you know, spinning around, you know.
And if you've ever seen Scary Movie 2, you'll have seen the parody of it. But it is a good film, and it freaked people out so much when it was made back in the day. I mean, it was banned in Ireland. You couldn't rent it. You couldn't see it in the, well, I don't think you could really rent films back then when it came out. It was like 19...
I don't think it was properly released uncut until the 90s, I think.
Yeah, because it was made in 1973, so it was in the peak of Ireland under the Catholic rule.
Yeah.
So it was ostracised out of Ireland.
I don't understand that though, because it's very much a Catholic film in the sense of like, if you are Catholic, this movie is going to scare the shit out of you. If you believe in God, it's going to like,
and it was very much so,
if you believe in God and the devil, it'll scare you. You know what I mean? But it's pro-Catholic.
Exactly. I was just going to say that it is pro-Catholic because it's saying the Catholic can cure. This is they're the answer if you're possessed.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
they don't do it exactly perfectly, but at the end of it, she does like hug one of the priests, and it's like the priest did save her at the cost of his at the cost of his own life.
Yeah,
you know? I feel like it like if you do believe in the devil and stuff, the movie's 10 times scarier.
Oh
for you.
my god,
you know what I mean?
Definitely.
If you believe all that stuff to be real, but
and as a child, like obviously I was conditioned to think like that because I came from a Catholic home.
And the movies, even if you're not, the movie has a lot of stuff behind it that you feel like you've heard stories. Everyone has a story about it being cursed, even if you're not like.
They were delayed in filming for a good few weeks because the set burned down.
Oh yeah.
In the middle of one of the scenes, and that used to creep me out as a kid because there was a lot of weird stuff that happened with The Exorcist and The Omen and like Poltergeist and stuff, and I feel like there is a lot of
movies.
There is a lot of weird things that happen with horror films dealing with the devil, which does freak me out a little bit. Like, not that I'm saying that I wouldn't consider myself Catholic. I'm agnostic now as an adult, and I just feel that
any kind of movie that deals with it, it's odd.
Yeah.
But I would also say I would do the same as of you in beliefs. But I feel like sometimes stuff would get exaggerated and stuff would just be coincidence, and a lot of the stuff could happen to like no one hears about it, no one talks about how the movie maybe I don't know if it is, how the Goonies was cursed or Lethal Weapon was cursed. Some tragedy could happen in those movies, but they wouldn't necessarily be called cursed because they have nothing to do with the devil.
Exactly,
you know?
that's very
Not that
true,
there's anything wrong with those movies. They're just two random examples I chose.
That aren't dealing with the devil.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I just found it very interesting. There's loads more facts that you can look up online. There's like loads of trivia and stuff. But yeah, I mean, they're very interesting to look into. But I remember as a kid when I did see that clip, and I was like, my parents would have made me think that the devil was real, you know? So that freaked me out, and I was always so afraid of like Ouija boards and stuff, you know, because I was like, that could be a portal to the devil.
Supernatural
Exactly,
sort of,
yeah.
And the whole thing is like, be respectful, I think, in that movie as well, of like, don't talk shit about the devil, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It is a very scary movie. Now, like, it took me ages to properly watch it because I'd be wanting to watch clips and stuff, but when you watch it in the right setting, because I think it's been spoiled for so many people because they know the clips of it and they know the famous scenes. But if you watch it properly, there's some great stuff in it. There's some really surprisingly good jump scares in it as well. And I mean, I like jump scares when they're done right.
Yeah.
Not when they're done, you know, in very stupid ways. But they have some really great ones, and the tension is really good, and the atmosphere and the world they build is very creepy. And that's another one that's set in very much a suburban Gothic setting. That poster is literally
exactly all
suburbs,
the fog around the priest standing outside the house. It's great. Like, it does look really good, and it does set the tone for the film because you feel that the fog, like you feel that kind of atmosphere when you're watching. I mean, I watched it then for the first time when I was 14. I kind of eventually accepted, like, okay, I'll watch it now. Like, I think I'm old enough to watch it.
Yeah.
I think it won't scare me that much, and it really didn't scare me.
Yeah.
Because I was a bit older, and I guess I was probably trying to be a bit cool. I mean, I watched it by myself.
Yeah.
I think I watched it like
cool, man.
2:00 in the morning, and I thought I was so cool that I was like, ooh, didn't find that scary.
But no, I think
maybe it wasn't the right setting for me.
Oh, I think you know sometimes.
Actually, to be honest, I didn't even really like it when I watched it.
I mean, I saw it when I was a bit too young to, I think, appreciate it. But when I rewatched it...
I didn't appreciate it then.
When I rewatched it when I was older. But it is, like, it's the ultimately kind of hyped horror movie. Because everyone has a story about it. Like, I remember my mom would be... Who also, like, comes from down the country and stuff. Back when she was living up the country, her and her friend rented a bunch of videos to watch when they had a free house. And they saved The Exorcist for last because it's the scariest one. And when they put it in, and at a certain point when the stuff started getting good, the power went out in the whole house, you know? So everyone has a story, I feel like that with that movie, who are older, who saw it when it kind of came out. I talked to other friends and they said, oh, when my dad saw it and this happened, and, you know, all these kind of stories.
Remember when we watched the clip?
Yeah, like when we watched a clip of it on the Channel 4 100 Scary Moments Countdown. It was obviously a VHS rip that somebody uploaded on YouTube.
Yeah.
But the tape had obviously got really worn when they started to talk about The Exorcist. And honestly, was a bit eerie.
It freaked me out.
Yeah, it was a bit eerie.
Because it was like 12:00 at night. There was like a few of us in my house, and we said we'd throw the other people who were here had never seen the 100 Greatest Scary Moments, and they didn't really know much about it. And we were like, okay, we'll show you bits of it. And when it got to that part of the show, it just, that really made it weird.
Really like, the tape was very worn around that. And it was like, it's funny how it's most worn at this particular point. Like,
exactly,
pictures were cut out, and the sound would go in and out and everything, you know? It was very odd.
And the fact that it was just like a few days after Christmas, there's something about Christmas that is creepy in a sense.
In a way, yeah. There's always ghost stories at Christmas as well. I don't know what it's like in other countries, but in Ireland, and I feel like in England as well, there's a lot of ghost stories. I mean, Christmas Carol is a ghost story at the end of the day, isn't it?
And Black Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many horror movies
Christmas time. There's a different sense of creepiness around Christmas.
I think anything with the winter, anything when it's like dark at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, it's a bit like, okay, things are gonna be creepy. Your mind is gonna start messing with you in a way, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Just to reiterate my last point, when I said that I didn't really like it when I first watched it, that was obviously I didn't appreciate it when I was 14. But then obviously I had a newfound appreciation for it when I watched it when I was a little bit older, because especially that was made in 1973 and it was so controversial for the time. That's what got me really, like, I don't know, I just loved the fact that it was banned from Ireland. I thought that was so funny because we were just under such Catholic rule. But it does always remind me of Halloween because it is just
it
that
is
creepy.
like it is like one of the most famous horror movies.
Yeah.
And I feel like what you're saying, like the stories behind it and the kind of atmosphere the movie brings, almost kind of. I mean, I do like the movie a lot, and it is one of the best movies I think ever made. It might not be on my kind of favorite list, but it's definitely one of the best movies ever made because it's a really well made film, either way, with special effects and how it looks and everything. But
people were giving vomit bags in the cinema when it first came out. Yeah, because it was so out there. You wouldn't get that now because we've had so much films that are so gory and stuff.
But it is pretty out there for what the time period.
Oh, definitely,
like the whole crucifix scene and everything.
Yeah.
But for like a movie that is so famous and has so many stories and so much history, that all the atmosphere and the stories of the movie almost rival watching it. That if you know all these stories, you can almost ruin the movie, I feel, in a way, because it doesn't live up to this huge amount of hype that it has, in a sense, that everyone's got that story, everyone thinks it's terrifying and it's so famous, but and because now, like, honestly, there's so many movies that have copied it, so many movies have copied it and taken that kind of idea of the possession, and I'd say it's still the best possession movie ever made. Nothing comes to my mind that rivals it,
No, because there was the Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Isn't that, I've never seen that, but isn't that like a more of a drama kind of movie because it's based off a real case and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. I watched it. I remember that was another thing that my mom rented for me when I was 12 for a sleepover, and I was like, okay, so you won't let me watch The Exorcist, but you'll rent The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Okay,
it's a court case.
Makes a lot of
movie
sense.
That,
it's a court case movie. But it was so boring. Like, for 12-year-old kids who wanted to see her levitate from the bed. I'm pretty sure that does happen, but we wanted to see the 360 head thing. And because we thought it was The Exorcist, but it wasn't. Because at that time, I didn't know the difference between The Exorcist and The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Yeah. But I remember we turned it off. We were like, this is shite.
I thought when I was younger, I used to think that the name Exorcist meant that it belonged to the franchise. Oh. So, like, you didn't know there was an Exorcist 3, but there's like an Exorcist 1, an Exorcist 2, an Exorcist 3. Then there's like a fourth movie they made that they had to redo. So it's like two cuts of the one movie. Yeah. And then I remember thinking The Exorcism of Emily Rose was a part of the same franchise, which it isn't. But then I thought like The Last Exorcism, which I love. I think it's a fantastic movie. I thought that was in the same franchise, and then that had a sequel, and then everything with the word exorcism I thought was related to this one movie. I thought it was one big giant franchise. But no, that would be as well. Like, definitely want to check out for. I guess if you haven't seen any horror movies, maybe go bold and try with that one. And
if you want to
like
go bold,
yeah,
I think it is still quite.
It's long. It's like 2 hours or something.
But if you're any bit religious or anything like that, I think it is scary.
Well, then let's introduce ourselves. I'm Damien Karras.
And I'm the devil. Now kindly undo these straps.
If you're the devil, why not make the straps disappear?
That's much too vulgar display of power, Karras.
Where's Reagan?
In here with us.
Yeah,
if you believe in the devil,
I'd say watch it if you're a religious man. It's like watching a documentary. No,
I don't know. I do. I mean, it wouldn't be my recommended to watch if you've never seen a horror film, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, just whatever people are into. Like, if somebody scares easily, I definitely show them this just to. I mean, scared is fun, though. You know what I mean? I don't think it's going to traumatize anyone. So I would definitely check it out if you want to be scared. Because I remember a friend of mine actually texted me recently saying, like, what should I watch? Should I watch Hereditary or should I watch The Exorcist? I want to watch something to be scared. And I'm kind of like, I don't know, because both movies you kind of have to stick to and you've got to put the time in. And like, I showed them Hereditary with a group of people and they loved it. And we watched it as a group and we were in a like little bungalow, a little cottage in the middle of nowhere in the country. And that was a great setting and everyone thought the movie was very scary.
A great setting,
and it was great, but like, he ended up watching The Exorcist and he said, yeah, I didn't really like it that much. And I was like, yeah, well, what can you do? Maybe you didn't watch it in the right setting, but like, at the end of the day, how many times can I say, well, you didn't appreciate that movie because you didn't watch it in the right setting? A movie should just be great anyway, unfortunately, you have to put the time in and it's so hyped up, but if you know nothing about it and you want to watch something to be scared and you don't watch horror movies, definitely try this one. But you say no because it might fuck somebody up, or it's like a lot of commitment as well because some people could find it boring. It's like,
I mean, that's the thing. Some people could find it boring at times if they're not into horror films really at all.
Yeah.
I think we like it a lot because we know so much about the history of horror films, and we're so into films in general that it means more to us, you know?
Yeah,
You know?
the history behind it. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
This is the story of two young American students traveling through England on a night of the full moon.
I'm a werewolf.
An American werewolf in London. Something different.
For my third pick, I am picking American Werewolf in London, or An American Werewolf in London, I think is the proper title. You haven't seen this one yet. The reason why I'm kind of going with it is I'm going for all the different types of monsters. Vampires was my last one. I'm going straight into a werewolf one, but this is, to me, would be the pinnacle werewolf movie. Another, like, we can only pick 5 movies for this list or else we'll be here all day.
Yeah.
But originally on the list...
We have been.
Yeah, we have been here all day. Originally on my list I had the old Lon Chaney Jr. Wolfman, the old Universal kind of black and white movies. Any of them I feel like you throw on Halloween, it feels Halloween-y because it's spooky, it's all the gothic imagery that we talked about. But this one, not to keep saying this kind of point, but it is the kind of movies that feel Halloween-y to me are the ones that I watched as a kid around Halloween a lot. So this one was one that I bought because I thought the cover looked very cool. And I remember I was really young and my mom had to ring my dad to read out the title on the phone. And is it okay for him to buy this? Is it appropriate? He's like, yeah, it's good. That wasn't even, is it appropriate? No, it's a good film. Yeah, definitely let him buy that. You know? But I remember watching with him and just kind of being blown away at how it was just really out there. Like the transformation scene is the most famous scene. Like Rick Baker won an Oscar for the werewolf transformation. Just the movie ended very suddenly as well. I don't mean like in a negative way or on a cliffhanger. The werewolf is finished with whatever and the movie just ends and it cuts to a very upbeat song. It's Blue Moon by the Marcells. I can't remember. It just kind of, I was just thinking, wow, like as a kid I was like, isn't this great? There's no bullshit at the end of the movie. There's no other, like all the characters don't gather around and talk about how they feel at the end of it. It's just, no, okay, what we came to see is gone. The movie's over, you know. It's over.
Leave it, end.
You know?
Yeah,
but,
interesting.
It's the best horror comedy. I think it set the bar for horror comedies in the future that when it's funny, it's really funny. And when it's scary, it's really scary. Like they definitely kind of want, like it's horror comedies I think are really hard to do. It's a real like tightrope to walk. And sometimes you'll have characters cracking wise or making jokes in a situation that, you know, it's like that you wouldn't do that, like, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, it comes with the actors as well. How natural they are at doing it too.
Yeah, like if your movie's kind of overall very silly and stuff, I get that and that's fine. But when you have like you're trying to be serious and you have the main characters like wisecracking when the danger is there, it's a bit like, okay, you know, like this is just dumb, you know?
Yeah.
The fact that the actors, you know, they're not playing for a comedy, they make jokes like anyone would in real life, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
And then when it's scary or when they're in pain, they really go for it with the acting. Like Griffin Dunne, you saw the opening scene, it's about 2 American tourists going backpacking in England.
Yeah.
And they're in the middle of the moors and they go to a bar called the Slaughtered Lamb. Stick to the roads, beware the moon. And of course they leave that and they both get attacked. One of them gets bitten by the werewolf, the other one gets killed. But that whole opening sequence to me is just extremely atmospheric and Halloween. I keep saying Halloween-esque to change it up a bit, you know?
Yeah.
But when Griffin Dunne, who's the one that gets killed, is killed, his whole death scene, you saw it I think earlier, is so like graphic and he really sells it. Like
he
with
does
his screams,
because it's so. When was it made? What was the year?
1980, I think. Yeah, or 81 it came out. You know?
I mean it's done very well because now when you watch it, you know. It's like a dummy that's on.
Yeah,
and he's
but he sells it.
With the dummy, but he sells it.
He sells it so well. And then
he does it well.
In that scene, the kind of emotional weight to it is that when he gets mauled, it's all the werewolf is really different. That the werewolf isn't like a wolf man who wears ripped pants. You know what I mean? He's the werewolf is a giant dog. It's like, it's on all fours and it's like a bear when it attacks people. So if you take it as in just a bear attack, the main character, David, just runs away when his friend is getting mauled, and like he's calling out for help, and he's like, oh God, it's killing me, please help me. And then he finally, when he's run like a good bit away, he's like, oh no, I have to turn back and help my friend.
Yeah.
And that is so relatable.
It's
like,
so, it is.
You know?
And when I saw that clip, I was like, that's a realistic reaction to something like that. You do, I mean, obviously I've never been in a situation like that, but I can imagine that from like tamer things. If you get a fright, you do run. Say if you're like at one of those pharmaphobia things or something, you run, and then your friend is like, I remember last year I went with my friend, and she was on crutches, and we had to be, I remember some guy came up after us with a chainsaw, and I was like about to run, and I was like, shit, I can't leave her. So
it's like that fight or flight thing, but I think it's so great to have characters that are very kind of realistic in the
complex
sense of, you would kind of run away, but then no, he turns back for his friend, but by that it's too late and stuff.
But he was, I mean, you can blame him, he was never going to survive.
No, like like if that, like that's the whole thing, to make it realistic, to compare it to like a bear attack, you know, you're kind of fucked if a bear attacks you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that kind of whole thing of the English kind of Moors and everything, that's feeding into the whole gothic imagery thing, and you know, it was a Halloween kind of regular viewing for me from that moment onwards, you know? The whole kind of mood to the movie, like the balance between horror and comedy, like at this, like I read up that financiers for the movie, John Landis made this, he made the Blues Brothers and Animal House and stuff, so he came from a comedy background, and a bunch of, I suppose the financiers didn't want to give him money for it because they didn't know if it was a horror movie or a comedy movie. So I feel like it was one of the first ones to really do that, like horror comedy as we would know it today, you know? But with that kind of comedy and the mood, there's these dream sequences that he keeps having after he's been bitten, that he keeps hallucinating with. There's a sequence where he's dreaming where he's back home with his family, and the whole thing is John Landis is Jewish, and the character's Jewish. So the threat is that they burst in, there's a bunch of Nazi werewolves or German soldier werewolves that come in with Uzis, and they kill like his younger brother and sister who are watching the Muppets. They kick the TV in.
Ladies and gentlemen.
They shoot the dad, they burn the house, they slit his throat, and you're like, what the fuck was that? And then he wakes up in the hospital, and the nurse, they do that fucking dream within a dream. So she pulls open the curtains, another werewolf Nazi jumps out and starts stabbing it to death. And like, if you're seeing that, you're laughing, but at the same time you're like, this is horrible, like what's going on, like, you know? But that like has to be one of the most famous scenes like in the movie. Or like, I want to say, if there's anyone that hasn't seen it, like you haven't seen it, if you don't want to watch it after that scene, I feel like just maybe don't watch the movie, because like that should sell you on it, you know?
Guess werewolves wasn't really my thing as a kid.
Did you not live through the Twilight craze?
No, I wasn't a big Twilight fan, no. I read the book and I thought it was grand, but I wasn't crazy into it, you know?
Do you remember the thing with Twilight that, like, I think it still goes on now, but people would make fun of the Twilight. I mean, I was never into them, but I don't make fun, like, I don't care about them, you know, that kind of way. But people would be like, oh my god, this is worse than Twilight, or like, this is a better love story than Twilight ever. And it was like, why do people have this kind of hatred for that movie, to the sense of like fully grown men or something are commenting on movies from the 80s being like, you wouldn't get these werewolves in Twilight. It's just like, and they still do it today, you know, people still make those comments today. It's a very odd
on
thing.
TikTok it's a huge thing to slag Twilight as well.
That's really weird. It's kind of like, people not over it yet, you know.
A look that led to an evening.
We were attracted to each other at the party, that was obvious. And you're here with a strange girl, being a naughty boy.
I don't think having dinner with anybody's a crime.
I've got to see you.
This is gonna stop.
No, it's not gonna stop. It's gonna go on and on.
Fatal attraction.
I guess you thought you'd get away with it. Well, you can't.
The fourth movie that I picked is Fatal Attraction, and I guess this is going to be like my last film that we're going to be talking about individually, because we both picked the same one as our fifth
for
one.
Our last one.
For our last one, so we'll talk about that then. But this is directed by Adrian Lin. This film just really, like, I don't know what it is about it, but there's something so
relatable. Fuck
off. It's so It's so, I don't know, it really, obviously because it's just really well written, and when I was younger, when I watched it, it was nearly like she became like a Michael Myers type character for me anyways, because it's a scene, particularly when she kind of just goes off the rails.
Yeah. The last bit in the film.
There's so much things about it, and it created such a subgenre after that of that crazy,
of like unfortunately crazy bitch kind of movies, and that's like a really fucked up way of saying it, but that's basically, I feel like people in Hollywood, basically a bunch of
they just took it
guys
and
in
ran
suits
with
would be
it.
like, what crazy bitch movie can we make, you know, that
I mean, even Glenn Close will say herself now, she said like in interviews and stuff that she would have approached it so differently, but she also said she had done loads of research on it at the time, but obviously psychologists weren't as, you know, up to date now as they are now with mental health. So at the time they told her like, this character Alex Forrest has no mental health issues, but psychologists now will say that she had eromania, I think that's what it is. I'm probably butchered that, I probably got that wrong. It's eromania, whatever it is, it's the psychological condition where you believe that somebody's in love with you when they're not. You know, and that's what the character had. And she said that she definitely would have approached the character differently, and I guess with a little bit more care. Because it is a little bit problematic, for sure.
No,
you know?
Definitely, especially the ending that they went with.
The original ending is that Alex Forrest, after her and Dan have the fight, she commits suicide and she slits her throat. He's just after fighting with her, and she uses the same knife that he had his fingerprints on. The cops come for him and they arrest him. But his wife, Beth, in it, she finds a tape of Alex stating that she'll kill herself if he doesn't love her. But
wait, does he not get arrested then in that final version?
He did, and then once he gets arrested, Beth goes up to find the number of their lawyer, and when she's trying to find the number, she finds this tape, and it says, "Play me, Alex." And when she's listening to it, it's at a point where Alex is saying, if you don't want this, like, if you don't want me, like, I'll just kill myself, I'm just gonna end it all. And then Beth is like, oh my god, yes, like, I have evidence that she did commit suicide.
I don't want to live without you, Dan. I can't live without you. But when you push me away, you give me no other choice. I'll just cut deeper next time. I'll kill myself. I will. I'll kill myself.
They test screened that ending with audiences, and audiences wanted to see Alex get killed. They wanted the revenge, and even like I remember hearing that audience would scream in the middle of it like, kill the bitch, kill the bitch. Which is like unfortunate because she obviously had mental health issues, and it's sad. It makes me feel kind of sad now.
It's a bit fucked up. I mean, you kept telling me to watch this, and I only watched it over the summer, and I was kind of surprised how good it was and how it did live up to it. But it is extremely problematic, but you can still enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
Michael Douglas and Glenn Close are great in it, but Michael Douglas I see very much as the bad guy because he cheats on his wife.
Yeah.
And
they have a kid together.
And they have a kid, and they have a dog, and they have, it's...
They have great friends.
No, I won't talk about how much I like the friends in the movie. It's been a thing with me. After I saw the movie, I was like, God, the friends characters were so... Because they're just yuppie Americans. It's like... Michael Douglas's other movie, Wall Street, is like a good pairing with this movie because it's like yuppie New Yorkers, and I really kind of like that aesthetic, and I just thought the Friends characters were really interesting. I mean, they were very kind of just...
realistic.
Yeah, realistic and kind of like bubbly, kind of like they very kind of self-centered in not a mean way, but they're in their own kind of little bubble, you know?
Yeah, I get that.
And it definitely kind of built the world, but Michael Douglas is definitely the bad guy, and when you see basically Michael Douglas's wife kind of forgive him and even kill Glenn Close at the end of it.
Yeah, because his wife is the one who shoots her.
Shoots her, yeah. Spoiler.
Yeah.
But these movies are old, and you can watch them with spoilers anyway, but...
Because they're still amazing.
They're classics, you know?
Exactly.
When that happens, it's like, did you really want her to be fighting for Michael Douglas? Or like, maybe the ending would have been a bit more okay if she had killed Michael Douglas and then the wife had killed her, because now they're both kind of dead together, that kind of thing.
That might have been a bit...
Because when Michael Douglas is like, well, it's over now and I can go back to my family life and we'll probably have to go to therapy and she'll never look at me in the same way.
But he still gets off a lot easy.
Yeah, he still gets away with it, you know what I mean? But then...
He just wanted he thought, oh, my wife's away for the weekend, I'm going to have a fun weekend. I met this, like, pretty blonde lady.
There's no moral kind of will I won't I in it. He pretty much decides.
Oh yeah.
I mean, oh well, I'm gonna have my fun, and it kind of seems like he's done this.
He doesn't
before.
question it.
Yeah, he seems like he's done this in the past.
Yeah.
I think I said this to you before though, but there's the whole very famous scene where Glenn Close has killed the bunny in it, the rabbit,
which is the originating of, if you've ever heard of the term, he or she is a bunny boiler.
Yeah.
This is where it originates
from. Like it's their a crazy girlfriend or crazy boyfriend kind of thing, isn't that it? But that whole thing with the pet is like very famous, But one of the things I was saying to you that I found very kind of like personal was that he takes the family dog out with Glenn Close at one point for like a day in the park, and I was like, ooh, that feels really seedy and gross to take the family dog to be playing with the mistress. And something about it is like, this is uncomfortable, you know what I mean? This is really uncomfortable feeling, because it's like such an invasion of privacy and everything, But
because if dogs could talk.
Yeah, I mean, that whole scene I was kind of taken aback with, but the movie is just like incredibly written, and they do really work well together. Like the scene where they have dinner and he gives the whole speech about him at the opera and stuff with his dad, and she's great in all of it. There's so many scenes people have probably seen of this movie that they don't know that they've seen because it's a parody in some way. Like the scene when she's flicking the lights off and on in her apartment, and she bought tickets to the opera.
She's listening to Madame Butterfly.
And that's been parodied, I know, in Family Guy and stuff. And then the bunny, obviously, the bunny boy has its own term. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like it is something that you've definitely heard the different things from it, but you probably mightn't even know of the film.
You've definitely seen probably a movie inspired by it, because it started those whole, and I don't mean to be offensive by calling them crazy bitch movies, but I feel like that's what people would have considered them, of crazy women, because
like
The Hand That Rocks the Cradle and all that kind of stuff,
like obviously like horror films are getting better just like making the woman out to be like this crazy woman who just she's only living for this man now, and that's kind of how it was a little bit, and it is problematic. I do like the film, but I have my qualms with it as well,
It goes into like a long list of horror movies that are problematic but shouldn't be forgotten, or they can be watched and they can be enjoyed. This one in particular can be studied, and you can take what's good and bad from it, but like if you look at other horror movies, they do enter that kind of list of like they shouldn't be made today. Like even Friday the 13th movies, Jason's a big a big man who has like deformed, and he's a killer. Like is it okay? Is he a killer because I know his mom died in that kind of franchise, but it's also like, is he just a killer because he's this big kind of deformed guy? It's like, that's not all right. And then there's always a reveal at the end of the movie that shows off his face and to show his facial deformities, and to be like, oh, you're repulsed by that. That's the scary kind of reveal. No, I like those movies and I like those setups and everything, but would I want to see one of them made today? No. Would I want to see Fatal Attraction made today? Not the way it was made.
No,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and even hearing that people said that back when A Fatal Attraction was released, it was made in the 80s? 87, yeah, it's in late 80s, yeah. So it was, when it first came out, there was like people that said that men apparently were scared away from blonde curly-headed women for like months afterwards, and I was like, oh my god, Jesus Christ.
The whole movie is like, didn't the director say it's a metaphor for AIDS, the AIDS crisis, when like in the 80s was the AIDS crisis, and so it's like a sexual encounter that stays with you for forever. Deal with the repercussions of just a sexual encounter, A
lot of people went up to like Glenn Close and Michael Douglas, and they said, oh my god, you saved my marriage.
Oh, really? That's fucked up.
It's fucked up because people were scared of cheating on their partners because this was a possibility that no one ever thought of that would happen.
It's Glenn Close's second scariest performance, next to Cruella de Vil in the live action 101 Dalmatians. You went as her for Halloween, and that's probably one of the reasons why you
that was it. Yeah, because I went as her for Halloween a few years ago.
As not Cruella de Vil, which kind of would have been a bit more, what's the word?
Tasteful.
Sane, I think. No, you went as Alex Forrest.
From Fatal Attraction.
You think in the big leather coat that she wears, or the end of the movie, the white kind of jumper, but no.
No, you mean the white dress.
The white dress, okay, yeah. You went as the attempted suicide version of Alex Forrest. What was it again?
With the white t-shirt.
And the slit wrist, which I think is like the best part of the film.
It's very...
I didn't know
very,
that, yeah.
It's a weird feeling to the film because he's just after telling her that he can't continue this on, and she's really upset. He's comforting her, but he doesn't realize that she's just slit her wrists.
Yeah, and this wasn't spoiled for me when I saw it for the first time, and it gets you, you know?
It does get you, doesn't it? Yeah. Really, really
unbelievably
scary.
sudden. They like literally have an argument, and he steps out, and between him stepping out of the bedroom into the main room of the apartment, she slit her wrist. And it like, surprisingly, a lot of the scenes had been spoiled for me. Yeah. But holy shit, that bit was so kind of sudden, and so like anything really with wrists or anything like that really makes my skin crawl. Like it really, like veins and stuff really kind of gets me, and that, you know.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I remember feeling like really sorry for her. Feeling really bad because I kind of like I kind of sympathize with her 100%. Character. You know?
She Glenn Close even said in the interview that like in an interview that she doesn't see her as a bad guy. She didn't play her as a bad guy.
No,
you play it as a bad guy, and you'd be like twirling your mustache as a super like an evil villain, you know. But
it's just really like, you know, not well.
You could make a horror movie or like about this, but from Michael Douglas. Like you could flip it, and you could rewrite little things, and you could make a good horror movie the other way around. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because he just thought he could get off scot-free after having his fun on the weekend. Yeah. Too fucking right she came back after him.
That's why I think the ending is fairly problematic, but the original ending where she kills herself, I don't know if I'd want to see that either. It seems like it would be too depressing in a sense. I'd rather you turn it into a fun kind of popcorn kind of movie rather than this is really dark. Like there's no like, and then he'd get off in that one as well. They find the tape and he'd get off free in that one as well. He
exactly.
Because he lose his wife, you know.
No, because the wife was delighted when she found the tape. She was like, yes, because they kind of made the Beth, who played by Anne Archage, they'd made her out to be a little bit of a, you know, a cuckold. You know, she's...
Can't believe you said cuck.
A cuckold.
You've brought it into a level of internet personality I didn't think we were going to reach just yet.
Really?
Fucking cooks, man. Fucking cooks and simps. But I don't know, she didn't know. That's the whole great thing about the movie is the way she find out. Like there's a whole levels of suspense when she's not revealed to be violent towards anyone but herself. And that was a big thing with Glenn Close in the interview, that she was saying that self-destruct, like a self-destructive character was the way to play it, not destructive to anyone else to attack somebody else with a knife. But when you think she's just kind of self-destructive, the way they keep the tension going is when will Michael Douglas's wife find out he's cheating on her. And there's the whole great scene when they're going to sell their New York apartment to move down the country, and she moves in to Alex Forrest comes in as a potential buyer.
Yeah.
And he knows it and she knows it, and the wife, like Michael Douglas knows,
the wife has no idea.
Glenn Close knows, and the wife does not know,
and the
it's
tension
this great scene.
It's honestly a great scene, isn't it? And it's one that I forgot about until I rewatched it, and I was like, oh my god, this scene is fucking fantastic. But yeah, definitely worth a watch.
Did anyone get your Halloween costume?
No.
Oh.
No one understood my Halloween costume. And I wore it in town, and I also wore it to a party that night. And no one, everyone's like, what the fuck are you?
I'm the Alex Forrest.
And I was like,
you know, attraction. The suicide version.
Twist the bones and bend the back. Here to decapit American mystic.
Back in 1693, the people of Salem, Massachusetts, witches,
yes,
thought they got rid of the Sanderson sisters for good.
We shall be back.
Bette Midler.
Hello.
Sarah Jessica Parker.
Would thou dance with me?
And Kathy Najimy. Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus. I mean, I think everyone probably, except you, has this as a Halloween movie. I know a lot of people that hate this movie though, and I stopped talking to them almost immediately and end the friendship from that moment on. I feel this is obviously a really big nostalgic movie for me, as with a lot of those people when it comes to Halloween. It's set at Halloween. It's a Disney movie. They show it. They have a weird thing in Ireland where they don't show it every Halloween. RTE, which is the main kind of channel in Ireland, will show it every Easter instead of Halloween. I don't understand why, because it's set at Halloween. It is like the kind of pinnacle kind of kids movie for Halloween feeling.
Yeah.
It's like everyone has, no matter whose house it is in the kind of the suburbs of the movie, they all have an insane amount of Halloween decorations because it's set in Salem. You know, it's the Salem witch kind of trials. It's touched upon that. This is another one that, you know, I just watched when I was a young kid that we recorded off the TV on a videotape. And I would watch it so much that I could tell you like the ads that would play in between the movie. You know, like a weird Actimel ad burnt into my brain, you know, because I watched this movie so much. And like promos, I think Band of Brothers was only on TV around that time, so those promos for that that just kind of seared into my brain.
Okay.
This movie is just so much fun. If you if kids haven't seen it, they definitely should. I think it should be shown. I mean, everyone has Disney Plus now, so everyone can watch it there, you know.
I never watched it as a kid. It never was on for us. I never watched it as a kid. Interesting, it just was never on the TV, and my parents never got it for us or anything like that. It wasn't a big thing.
It was always off season when it was shown for some reason, you know.
So the first time I saw it was when I would be on my break at work. They used to play it in the break room, and it'd be really interesting. Well, they played it in the break room in October.
Yeah,
once it hit
season.
October, on season. Once October hit, they'd play it, and I found it that I just would sit there on my break and watch it. But I don't know, I never really sat down and watched it properly, and I think it's something that I probably will watch now because I'm kind of in the mood to watch like all those kind of old spooky kind of
the feel like that. That's what we were kind of doing the list for. That we said
to get the feel of Halloween.
The feel of Halloween, and then I don't think anything better than like there's big Halloween parties in the movie. There's, you know, Bette Midler. I really like Bette Midler, and I think she's great. She sings "I Put a Spell on You," and it's the most famous scene.
I put a spell on you, and now you're gone. My planet fell on you, and it was strong, so strong.
Incredibly fun movie.
And the production design is great.
Like the production design, like next to on par with Halloween, it's got that autumn feel.
Yeah.
Like because it's set Salem as well, the colours of like all the leaves and everything, it's such
like even though I haven't seen it like from start to finish, like I can, when I picture it, obviously I've seen like, you know, clips of it, and so that's obvious, but I do like the first thing I think of it when I think of Hocus Pocus, I think of the orange leaves and the orangeness of it, and just that vibe that I guess I kind of chase for.
Yeah, no,
for Halloween,
that's
you know?
it. Like if you are a Halloween fan, like we would be, I think you'd like it. You know the thing. I'd like to say as well that I don't think it's a movie that you'd have to see when you were younger to enjoy. I find the movie. I mean, I did, so I am biased, but I genuinely find the movie fun. Yeah. I think it's always gonna be fun. Like it's Bette Midler and Sarah Jessica Parker and Kathy. I can't remember her name. Kathy Najimy or something, but. The three of them are hilarious, and as the three witches, like it's so
they have
funny.
good like chemistry together too.
They're just so funny. Like there's just so many funny jokes, and it's genuinely just entertaining. But there's other, like, I feel like it inspired Sabrina the Teenage Witch as well. The whole talking.
I loved that when I was a kid.
That was great. I'm not exactly sure when that started, but that could have come before, and I could be wrong. But there's a whole talking cat character in this, and of course there's
Salem in Sabrina Teenage Witch.
He's like the reoccurring character. He's like in every episode.
Oh god, yeah. He's like one of the main
characters. Yeah. So like I loved that kind of witch kind of atmosphere to it.
Yeah.
You know, because I think it's Sabrina, and I think of that, and that kind of goes hand in hand with it. You know, it's just funny kind of looking back at it when I'm older. Doug Jones, who's in all the Benicio del Toro movies, who usually plays monsters. He plays like the main Gill man in the Shape of Water, and he's in all the Hellboys and all that kind of stuff. But he plays the zombie that pursues them in it.
Oh,
and
right.
It's just great to go back and look at a movie in your childhood to see this kind of, he's in one of my favorite movies as a kid. You know? So
interesting.
Yeah, no, it definitely captures the American Halloween
aesthetic of Halloween,
Like,
and it's something that I've always chased ever since I was a kid. Like I wished that other people in Ireland loved Halloween as much as I did. So everyone, like no one on my road will put up Halloween decorations other than my neighbour, who's my next door neighbour, that she's into Halloween too. But no one else would, especially when their kids grew older, they were like,
they just stopped, they grew out of it.
And it makes it kind of really takes away from the fun of it, because if everyone's doing it, then imagine how much fun it would be.
It becomes like Christmas. Like no one's going to turn
exactly.
around and say Christmas is like, nah, you know, my kids are too old for Christmas.
I'm not going to put up Halloween Day. Yeah, could you imagine that? Like, so I would love, and ever since I was younger, I would try to chase that feeling, and Halloween was always a bit of a disappointment because it was never
It didn't live up to the films.
No, it never lived up to that aesthetic and that, like, you know, pumpkin patch and like everyone had pumpkins around.
This is literally that type of movie where everyone in the neighborhood of this like setting of this movie would have ridiculous amount of decorations, and there'd be scenes set in pumpkin patches and everything, you know.
Yeah.
Like they have like giant plastic cauldrons made of like filled with sweets and stuff like that, and like one of the characters in it like her, she has this it's like the love interest kind of character for the main character, has this family because she's like rich in the movie, and her family are like born into Salem, so their ancestors lived in Salem. They have a big kind of mansion, and they have basically an old kind of like period piece Halloween party where they wear all the old kind of powdered wigs and that whole thing. And when they walk into it, they do have like the giant cauldron of sweets and stuff, and it's like an incredible kind of Halloween feeling. It was also made by Mick Garris, who made the Stephen King's TV adaptations, I think. Written by him and directed by Kenny Ortega, which leads into our next film.
You've seen all kinds of movies, but you've never seen anything like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
So that brings us to our last film that we want to talk about, that we both had on our top 5 picks list, and that's the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, it just so happened that we both didn't tell each other. We like went away, got our 5 movies.
Yeah.
But ended up with this one.
It's something we both have in common that we want to talk about.
Yeah,
so it's an interesting one.
It's obviously then, I feel like it speaks for itself in being a Halloween movie if we both picked it, you know?
Yeah.
It's just to kind of get straight into it in regards to why I think it's a Halloween movie, is that it's, again, the gothic setting and everything like that, but the whole movie is about like dressing up and it's the same reason with Scream. You'd see a Frankenfurter or a Riff Raff or a Magenta or a Columbia at a Halloween party or a Halloween costume. You know what I mean?
I dressed up as Frankfurter for Halloween before.
Yeah, that's it. And then the whole love for horror movies like Fright Night, of like the whole opening, the science fiction double feature opening song.
Then something went wrong for Fay Ray and King Kong.
So it's a big kind of love letter to those old movies. Like even at the end of the movie, you have Tim Curry singing like "Don't Dream It, Be It," but it's on the RKO backdrop. You know, the big tower, and RKO produced King Kong and everything. So it is very much made, I think, by people who love those movies. Mm-hmm. So it's obviously like you want to watch it around Halloween.
But it was a theatre show before, and it was obviously adapted then from theatre. Richard O'Brien, who plays Riff Raff, he wrote the theatre version of it. And then the screenwriter was Jim Sharman, who also directed it. Movie, But I thought, I saw the theatre show. It came to Dublin a couple of years ago, and that was what really got me into it. Like, because I had seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show when I was younger, when I was like maybe like 15 or 16. And like, as much as I liked it, I thought it was cool, but I didn't really know what was going on. I was like, this is cool, but you know, it's wacky in it. But I like wacky stuff, so I still liked it, even though I was like,
the songs are great in it. Like the songs are keep you invested. They're genuinely really well written. They are, and they're very catchy. Like I can remember all of them, you know, that kind of thing. And that's rare with a musical.
Exactly, but there's like, it's a cult classic, and they in Ireland, in Dublin especially, a lot of people in Dublin love it, and I'm sure all over the world. But we have places in town that would put on and that would put on nights for it, and you dress up. And you would have
it's
like a newspaper thing where you when it was raining, you'd put a newspaper over your head. And what was the thing you would throw?
Toast for let's have a toast. That was like, it's like a midnight. They have them like all over the world for these kind of screens. In Ireland, it was huge as well.
It is big,
you know, they've been going since 1975, since the movie came out. You know, I think the movie came out and it became a cult movie because, you know, how could it not? Because it was so likable, it was so enjoyable. But I think it came out around the same time Jaws did. I think Jaws obviously beat it at the box office. Definitely beat it, and it got no money. But I think it's made so much more money since then, because every time they show it, there's money being generated for it. But I never got to see a live performance like you did. I've always wanted to.
Yeah. Oh, but, it was incredible. Like, it was one of the best musicals I've ever seen live, and it was just, and I was like right up the front as well. My friend had got me tickets for my birthday. If it ever comes again after COVID, like, that would be the first one I would go see. Like, it's so good. And it's just so different. It's so out there, especially for its time. It was so out there, and I love that about it. It really pushed the boundaries.
It's got a great message of just kind of being yourself.
And
everything. And then, like, when I first saw this, my dad showed it to me when I was really young, and that was like my first exposure of finding out what a bisexual person was, that being a sexual preference. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. But it's odd that as such a young child, the movie kind of just clicked at me, and it was like, this is one of my favorite movies now from now on. But it always kind of stuck with me. Like, my parents bought me the soundtrack of it. Like, I'm such a huge fan of it. It didn't become like a Halloween essential viewing until they did the remake. Kenny Ortega, who made Hocus Pocus, directed a stage kind of remake with Laverne Cox from Orange is the New Black, which I didn't love, but they showed that around a Halloween, and I just remember thinking, oh, I've forgotten how much I love this film. And then since then on, it's been one of those, like, if I have a Halloween party, it gets thrown on in the background, and if somebody just turns and looks at the TV, they're like, oh my god, this is like, what is this? This is so interesting. Like that Halloween, I had a party and I chew on Halloween, like John Carpenter's Halloween, Rocky Horror Picture Show, and Suspiria. So anytime somebody would turn and look at the TV, they'd be like, this is great.
What's
you know
going
what I mean?
on?
Yeah, what's going on? This is amazing, you know?
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, no, there's a documentary behind the scenes of the Rocky Horror Picture Show I saw a couple of months ago. It just makes you want to go watch it again, you know? And just hearing like Tim Curry like talk about like the character and stuff like that.
I play Frankenfurter, who is a kind of new variation on the mad scientist of horror films that we all know and love.
I don't know, I just love that there's documentary footage of behind the scenes of that film, since like 75 is like a long time ago, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy to think of.
That movie, that kind of out there with its ideas and stuff, came out.
Yeah.
Gotta give it to Tim Curry as well. I just love him and everything.
He's great,
so good in it, you know.
There's something so wacky and wonderful.
Yeah, like he's just really kind of like charming in it.
Yeah.
You feel bad for him at points, and you see him as the villain as others, but he's very
alluring.
Yeah, like he's like he really puts a spell on you during the movie that you can't take your eyes off him, you know.
Yeah. And then he's great in it.
The original. Like, I mean, I love him in Muppets Treasure Island. I love him in everything, you know.
I see you shiver with anticipation.
What's your favorite song in it?
Probably The Time Warp. Yeah. I don't know, there's something about that beginning.
Yeah.
That's what got me really into it. I do love the first song. What's that, with the lips? What's that called?
Yeah, that's science fiction.
That's
my favorite, I think. But it would change every. I think time somebody would ask me the question, I might change it to something new. But...
Yeah, I definitely think my top favorite song of that film is definitely The Time Warp, because that's when they come into the castle and they're like, what the fuck is going on?
It's really when it gets
and then the dance.
Weird. Yeah. The very, very famous dance.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all of our essential Halloween viewing. We're hoping to go through the whole of October doing more episodes of these for 404 Fright. So hopefully we'll do an episode every week. One of the ones that we will want to be doing is, because we kept talking about it, is Channel 4's 100 Greatest Scary Moments. So expect to see that sometime in the near future. Thanks for listening.
Follow us on Instagram at 404.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yep.
We're so awkward.
We just fade out there.